to the City of Escondido Transportation and Community Safety Commission meeting. I would like to go ahead and do our roll call, and we'll go ahead and start with Vice Chair Cassabaum. Present. And Commissioner Durney.
Present.
And Commissioner Corey.
Present.
And Commissioner Grakowski. And Commissioner Phillips. Present. And Commissioner Spoonmore. Very good. Okay, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's go ahead and stand for our flag salute. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, at this portion in our agenda, I'd like to see if there's any oral communications. Anybody from the members of the public out there that have anything they'd like to present to us today? No? Okay. Then we'll go ahead and approve the minutes then from our last meeting in October. Do I hear a...
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, great. And
second that.
A second. Great, perfect. And we show the approval of the minutes from our October meeting. Then we'll just move quickly ahead on to our items.
Sure, would it be okay if we took a vote on the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
still getting used to this. Still getting used to this.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, you can use your touch screen right there if you'd like. You just hit refresh.
Okay. Okay, then we'll go ahead and everybody in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
And those opposed? Okay, perfect. Sure, the ayes probably have it. Okay, and we will move on to our items. Looks like we just have a couple of items today. And the first one, if staff would go ahead and present to us the radar surveys and whatnot from the establishment of speed limits on Center City Parkway.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ed Alberto, City Traffic Engineer, and a presentation for establishing posted speed limits on Center City Parkway. So we always start off with our slide that shows the correlation between speed and safety. Speed limits are based on the 85th percentile speed. By state law, speeding is the leading cause of fatal car collisions in the U.S., and aggressive driving causes over 50% of collisions in the country. In the bottom is a figure that shows the correlation between pedestrian survivability and speed. This was interpolated from kilometers per hour, which is why you have the odd speed limits. But as you can see, risk of pedestrian death goes up from 10% at 23 miles per hour versus a collision at 58 miles per hour and 90% risk of death. So we were always cognizant of speed and how it relates to pedestrian safety. So we have over 200 speed segments in the city. Speed surveys must be updated periodically, every 5, 7, or 14 years per California Vehicle Code. This ensures that speed limits reflect current conditions. California Vehicle Code Section 22358.6 requires that speed limits are posted at the nearest 5 mile per hour increment to the 85th percentile speed. And the 85th percentile speed is calculated based on prevailing speeds of a sample size of at least 100 vehicles. In determining the speed limit, we collect vehicle speed data, determine the 85th percentile speed, and then round that percentile speed. So our typical rounding, say if you have an 85th percentile speed of 37 miles per hour, you would round it to 35 miles per hour. If it was 38 miles an hour, you would round up to 40 miles per hour. Per Vehicle Code 22358.6, if the 85th percentile speed were to require rounding up, the speed limit may be rounded down to the lower 5 mile an hour increment. So at that 38 mile per hour, 85th percentile speed could be rounded down to 35 miles per hour instead of 40 miles per hour. The collision data is collected through our Crossroads database. We look at a time frame of 3 years and compare that to statewide accident rates for different roadway classifications, similar to car roadways. Center City Parkway is formerly U.S. Route 395. City of Escondido took ownership of it in 1978. It's about 6.5 miles from the northern city limit to southern city limit. There's no posted speed limit since the approved speed limit is 65 miles per hour. But there is a series of coordinated traffic signals through that core of that corridor based on a travel speed of 45 miles per hour. Staff recommends breaking up Center City Parkway into 5 different speed zones. So from north to south, the northern city limits will North Parkway, it's about 2.1 miles. El Norte to Mission, about 0.8 miles. Mission to Fifth, about 1 mile. Fifth to the Town Center Driveway, 1.2 miles. From Town Center Driveway to the southern city limit is 1 mile. So the first speed zone you can see on the city limits are to the left. So north is facing to the left, just past off the screen. You see there's 3 traffic signals along this 2.1 mile stretch. That's spaced pretty far apart. So that's the next speed zone. It's a little smaller, 0.8 miles. Between El Norte and Mission, again, 3 traffic signals, kind of widely spaced between this area. Speed zones 3 and 4, sort of the core corridor, Center City Parkway from Mission to Town Center Driveway. We've divided that up into 2 different zones, mainly based on the kind of the characteristics of Center City Parkway through there. Further to the north, it's sort of a sparsely commercial, multifamily residential. And as you get past Fifth, it's sort of more densely residential with some commercial towards the south. And with the densely packed traffic signals along that corridor, I felt like this was an appropriate sort of breakup of those 2 segments for that 2.2 mile stretch in the middle. And then speed zone 5 would be the final segment to the south, just past Town Center, just that horizontal curve where South Escondido Boulevard sort of merges into Center City Parkway, and also the Brotherton intersection, sort of in the middle. That's kind of controlled in the middle of this roadway segment as well, with 2 traffic signals that are pretty far apart for the southern section, just 1 mile long. So staff's recommendation from this chart, you see speed zone 1, the 85th percentile speed. I say the zones for zones 1 through 4, the 85th percentile speeds are pretty standard, where they round typically down to the nearest 5-mile-an-hour increment. So for zone 1, 85th is 56, round down to 55, staff recommends 55. As well for zone 2, the 85th is 51, round down to 50, we also recommend 50. For zone 3, the 85th is 47, round down to 45, we recommend 45. For zone 4, it's 46 for the 85th, round down to 45, we recommend 45. For zone 5, the 85th is 54 miles per hour, so we would typically round to 55, but then for this location, we recommend using the provision of vehicle code 2235816 that allows us to round down instead of up. So we're recommending 50 miles per hour for this zone, and primarily because of the collision rate for this section higher than typical, and also conditions not readily apparent to drivers, such as the movements from the uncontrolled intersections onto Center City Parkway. There is some pedestrian presence with no approved sidewalks on that corridor as well. So staff's recommendation is approval of our recommendation to establish posted speed limits on Center City Parkway by creating 5 speed zones, confirming the engineering and traffic studies, and forwarding these recommendations to City Council to post speed limits on Center City Parkway. Questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Do we have any questions?
Sure, I've got some, excuse me, yes, I do have some questions. I've been coming here for a while. I've been on the commission for probably about 10 years or so, and I've been told in the past that this cannot be done because it's labeled as a state highway and we cannot put speed limits on it, and that's been told to us for years and years and years. How can we do that now?
It's not a state highway. It's
Or that's what we've always
it's
heard.
Prime arterial,
Right.
State.
That it's because of, it used to be Highway 395, it has to be 65, and we don't want anyone to know, so that's why they don't put speed limit signs on it.
I think because it was incorporated into the city of Escondido years ago, and you'd see, if it were a state highway, Caltrans would be out there doing the maintenance, but they're not. I mean, it's the city of Escondido does the maintenance, so I believe it is part of the city.
Okay. Why haven't we done it sooner then?
I can't speak to what was done in the past. But we've been, I know that staff in the past has monitored it, and the speed surveys unofficially that I've seen in the past corresponding with like 45-mile-an-hour speeds. And so I believe there's just the thought that why don't we just go ahead and sign it now? So we made the effort to go out and do the surveys to establish this.
And I gotta admit, I love it being 65, but it really should not be. But the one thing I do see on this is coming off the freeway, coming north, you're dropping from what used to be 65 down into a 50 zone, going from the south end of Center City Parkway up to Town Center Drive. I really think that should be at 55 coming off, and rather than that big jump there, especially because coming off the freeway, people are coming in fast and used to 65.
And we would add advisory speed limit signs. We would add an advisory sign noting that, right where they come off the freeway, that they're entering a speed limit zone and will be posted at.
I understand that argument. I also think it's important when we look at the next segment, that knowing that from Town Center to 5th is 45 miles an hour. And so you're having less of a, if you're going highway, and then you've got to get down to 50, which granted is a big jump. But then the next one is 45, so it's not quite as big of a jump there. Whereas if you go highway to 55, and then you have to go down another 10-mile-per-hour increment, I feel like that's going to be harder for people to actually make that transition.
How often do you ever get through Town Center and Felicita without slowing down?
I have a question. The survey was done in a single day, right?
Sorry?
1 day survey per segment?
Yes.
Okay. And because usually, the way I look at it, sometimes you get subjective results for such. And as I was telling you earlier, in my experience in the South, there are lots of those so-called traps where you are supposed to be running at 55, and all of a sudden you are ordered to go to 45.
So the purpose of the speed surveys is to avoid the speed trap, so that
I understand the California code, but as I told you, testing it in 1 day may be subjective enough, maybe to make the whole thing a single speed, i.e. 50 for everything, rather than go 55, then jump to 45, then jump again to 50, or whatever. Is that possible?
it's not possible for it to be enforceable. For the police department to enforce the posted speed limits, it needs to be based on the
85th, but as I told you, a single day may not be representative.
And per the vehicle code and the METCD, the surveys are based on a sample size.
So we will have a policeman stand at the intersection, and when it jumps down and somebody is going 55 in a 45 zone, they will get a ticket.
Not necessarily.
Would our representative from the police department like to comment on that?
Yeah, my officers have, we are based on the 85th percentile. If a vehicle is traveling within 5 miles an hour of the speed limit, it's spirit of the law, unless it's an egregious violation or a safety violation. There's some leeway and there's some discretion on the part of an officer to issue a citation. Certainly 5 miles an hour, especially in a transition zone, is what we would consider reasonable. So we would exercise discretion and have some flexibility in the enforcement of those speed limits.
Any other comments or questions from the commissioners?
I was curious on the speed surveys, when you're looking at the accident rate and comparing it to the citywide for similar characteristics, what else are we comparing Center City Parkway to? I mean, it's a prime arterial, but I was curious, what are the ones we're comparing it to?
So historically, from what I've seen from the way we've been doing it in Escondido, is using Caltrans's collision statistics data. They have several tables related to different classifications.
Okay, so it's not just comparing within the city of Escondido.
Correct.
It's okay. Great. I did notice that those, especially the 3, which is not surprising, that those 3 segment 2, 3, and 4 have pretty high crash rates, either 2 or 3 times, that expected for comparable streets. And I just wondered, once we have these speed surveys in place and the speed limit signs up, it'll be interesting, I think, to see what happens and if the city can circle back and see if that changes at all.
Yes, we'll continue to monitor it. And the collision rates are based on the last 3 years, and, you know, if we were to choose different 3 years in the past, then that would be.
Right.
Okay, any more comments or questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and, do I hear a motion to go ahead and pass this agenda item? In a second?
Second.
Great, and we'll go ahead and cast our votes. Okay, it looks like that item went ahead and passed. Thank you very much for your work. Okay, then looks like our next item, we have a citywide status update on the various traffic-related projects that we have by Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to put together this update, this report. We've got, I think it's up to about 8 or 9 pages now, quite a few projects, but
Craig, I think your microphone might be muted, or I think your microphone might.
I'm sorry.
There you go. Perfect.
I thought it was still on. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to put this and update this report and then to try to find some photographs that are representative of some of the progress that's being made. We kind of spare you the agony of looking at 40 different projects. So I just kind of pick out a few highlights because I think most of these are pretty representative of what we're seeing happening. It was kind of fun to look at the progress in 3 months on Palomar Heights, the 2 photographs on the left versus the same locations on the right. Particularly the lower right picture to see how much vertical construction is going on at that site. We're working with them right now to try to improve some pedestrian access around some of the construction sites because we've got some, there are a number of seniors that live in the area to the right side and they relied on a bus stop that was at one time located right about here. They've had to move it for construction, but it's one of the things that we deal with kind of day in and day out. Particularly during construction, but always makes the days interesting. This shot here of Citricado on the left-hand side, you can, if you could look very closely, the bridge doesn't have a deck on it. It's still got rebar kind of poking out. But this shot on the right, you can see that the roadway is gaining some structure. And according to what I'd understood is that they're really expecting this still to be done around the middle of 2024, which I think is pretty exciting. This is a section of road that has had a big void for many, many years. So it'll be very nice to be able to connect that through. Here's a nice shot of on the right-hand side where you see the bridge deck is filling out, and it's also nice to see that there are sidewalks on both sides of the road so that folks that are walking or kids riding bikes have a place to feel safe in most of the traffic. And the section down here, this shot is a little bit north of Valley Parkway, about 1 street north, and you can see the shot on the left, the median is quite wide, and then there are some very wide buffers for bike lanes, but only 1 lane in each direction. The future cross-section shows 4 lanes, or 2 lanes in each direction, and narrow median, but still continued bike lanes on that section of roadway. They have, excuse me, they have had some. Have to do some control of egress from some of the subdivisions. We've gotten a little bit of feedback on some of that because you can't necessarily pull out at every location. There is a signal going in one of these intersections as well. We can report on that next month as we kind of move forward with that part of the construction.
Yeah, if I may, I drive through there quite often.
Okay.
And definitely, there's a lot of work going on. changing the whole character of the place too. Because it used to be like tree lined and mobile homes and everything. Now we've got walls on both sides
Yeah.
going down, the sound walls and everything. But I'm pretty sure once it's done, it's all going to look great and it's going to be cool. And it's definitely necessary.
It'll
It's
be a
coming along great.
quite an asset, I think.
But yeah, definitely a big difference.
Good, good. This is a pretty interesting shot of Grand Avenue Vision. I think if you read that report, you'll see that the project should be awarded sometime in the next couple of months, although there's some discussion about when to actually start construction. Unfortunately, if it were to start now, it's going to go all the way through Cruise and Grand, so we're not, there's some discussion on when it would, to try to get it from interrupting on Cruise and Grand. But I think the change of the intersection of Grand and Broadway with this traffic circle, this roundabout, will be a pretty exciting change. There is a third phase yet that I haven't shown you the images of, but the plans do include in a future phase 2 smaller roundabouts at each side, one at Calamia on the east and then another one at Maple on the west. So again, that'll be a pretty exciting project, and I think we look at finishing that by the end of 2024. This is it's nice to look at some of the small projects. This was a TMPL project that was part of the current fiscal year, but it was actually done by our public works forces. If you remember the 2 Girl Scouts that came to the commission meeting, 8 months ago or something like that? And we're asking for this crosswalk. We thought that was a good idea. We put it in. So I wanted to share that with you guys anyway, because I think it's a nice feature. Before, there was no crosswalk up there, and everybody had to kind of walk down to the entrance to Reedy Creek Elementary. This is a minor improvement also, but we had a number of constituents who are interested in seeing some more ADA parking downtown. We actually had identified a couple of spots where ADA parking was previously, and we basically restored those spots. The ramps were already there, but they had been taken out of commission for ADA parking. So we restored those, added the ADA truncated dome panels. We had added another ADA spot as part of the first phase of Grand, and so now we have a total of 5 along Grand in the downtown area. This project is pretty exciting. If you're familiar with this section of Philocita Road and you've seen the Oak Creek subdivision being built to the east of Philocita and south of Hamilton, I believe. This intersection of Philocita and Park is currently under construction to build a roundabout there as well. There's a pedestrian walkway along the east side of that roundabout, and we're working with them to improve pedestrian access in some of these other areas. But I think this will work. The roundabout will work quite well right there. I wanted to share a couple of things with you on CATS. We're all familiar with that project because we presented it to you a number of the last several meetings. We have launched the outreach phase, and we're well into the inventory phase, looking at various the roadways and the facilities around the city, throughout the city. This is a website that's been up for about a month and a half, I think. We had identified this URL, escondido.org/mobility, and that pulls up this particular website, talks about the project, It gives anybody an opportunity to go in and do an interactive map and then a mobility survey. This is another shot of the same thing. A little bit farther down, you can see another link to a feedback map of the survey. One slide further, this is kind of a shot of the map that you see off of the website. What's kind of cool is that if you go down and you see this add marker, you can zoom in on the map and find, let's just say, where you live. And just say you want to be able to walk across the street at 1 or 2 or 5 different locations. You can zoom into that. You can click on that location, and then you can add a comment that says, need better crossing, need bike lanes, a number of choices there. So we're hoping that we'll be launching some extensive outreach next week, basically. We've got everything lined up to do that. So we'll be sending that out to all city employees. We'll be putting something out to council to let them know about it. The website will be promoted through a number of different sources and a number of different face-to-face meetings. So I would encourage you all to go back to this site here at Escondido.org Mobility and enter some of your own preferences. Share it with your neighbors, share it with your friends, your relatives. The more people that we get to offer their opinions on where it's difficult to cross the street or where they'd like to see some sort of mobility facilities, the more successful this project will be. So we encourage your assistance on that. I left you a small flyer. That was actually an earlier version of this one. This is being printed into larger posters. And it'll be distributed to various sites around the city to encourage people again to fill out the survey and take a look at the map and offer their opinions on where it's difficult to get around in the city. So we will continue to give you updates on CAS all the way through the end of this year. It'll be wrapped up in early 2025. Really good things will come out of that. So that's all I have for today. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. If not, we'll give you another update in 3 months. No action on this, just information. Oh, good. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Now we have a time where our commissioners may bring up any items that they have, that they've been on their minds or like to bring up for future discussion. Anybody have anything on their minds? Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead, and this has been a short meeting, but a very good one.
Sure, Ellie. So we did have one member of the public who wished to just speak oral communications, if that's okay.
Sure, that's great.
Is that okay?
Come on down.
Thanks, guys. Sorry.
You can stay up there if you don't want to bring you can use the microphone, whatever works best for you.
Is it all right if I show Google Maps real quick?
Oh, sure.
Sorry, I'm a little late.
No worries.
Baby duty today. That's okay.
A smaller or lower microphone?
Yeah, well, that kind of comes down to sucker's level. Thank you so much. I just had a quick comment about the Grant Avenue Vision Project. I don't know where we are. Thank you so much for your presentation on that. But I wanted to ask, and I don't know if the Transportation and Safety Commissioners have any comment on this intersection at Calmia and Grant Avenue. And this shows up on your guys' computer, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Zoom in. I know when we went through the first phase, at this intersection right here, if you look back at the historical view, we have the center medians right here. And I just wanted to ask either city staff or the commissioners whether these center medians are going to be removed at this side Because it's something that I've noticed kind of anecdotally is it seems like not having the medians here at this point anymore seems to speed traffic up. I know kind of in popular planning talk, they say that when you have no center median, it actually slows cars down because now you have an obstacle that you're looking for, and the kind of the risk of a head-on collision is a little bit more dangerous, and so people will slow down in these conditions. But you know, my wife and I walk here all the time with little Tucker, and it seems like traffic is actually sped up now that we don't have those center medians. And I believe it was initially mentioned that the fire department might have requested that for additional clear lanes or something along those lines. But just wanted to see if there was any chance that we could speak to whether this is all going to get demolished in the next phase of the Grand Avenue project. So thank you guys so much for letting me ask about that.
Thank you, Mark.
I can speak to this.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So maybe I'll use this microphone.
Perfect.
Am I live? Yes, so the Grand Avenue Phase 2 project, we're close to starting construction later this year. It will take out the center median, and the reason is because we need that extra space to do the diagonal parking on the sides of the road, and also to narrow down the lane to one lane each direction. We're going to have a traffic circle, as Craig had pointed out, at the intersection of Broadway and Grand. And then in future phases, and actually if we get funding, there's a budget subcommittee meeting next week. If we get additional funding, we may actually be able to build a traffic circle at Calmia in Grand, which is kind of the intersection you're talking about. And that's a way to calm traffic, is to put in these traffic circles. Because of course the cars will slow down to navigate horizontally around the center. So that's the plan. And actually, just speaking to the whole project, the City Council did approve 3 traffic circles on that Grand Avenue corridor, and Craig mentioned it real quickly. I just want to reiterate, so the ultimate plan would be around about Maple, Broadway, and Calmia. So you'd have a whole series there, and that would calm traffic, keep the speeds low. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I would just like to make a comment since we're talking about this. I was extremely disappointed when the landscape medians were taken out. And I do believe that maybe there isn't exact statistics and scientific evidence that traffic can be slowed by the medians, but I think that there is a visual barrier there in the middle, and it can tend to calm traffic down. I think medians like that are sometimes used, maybe not in a straight line, but kind of in a zigzag line a little bit too, kind of as a calm down traffic, as a calming traffic measure. But I don't think that Grand looks as attractive without those medians, landscape medians. It looks a lot more industrial going down the street. It had a lot more charm and country feel and kind of old-fashioned aesthetic to the area when those landscape medians were in. I mean, originally the landscape medians had those eucalyptus trees, and I was, doggone it, I took out the eucalyptus trees, they put in the crepe myrtles, but then I got used to the crepe myrtles looked good, and then all of a sudden they took out the whole thing, and it just doesn't look as good. That's just my opinion, and now I'm disappointed to hear that. I was hoping that that other section would be saved, and I'm disappointed that it's going to be taken out, so I just want to mention that.
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, since you want to mention that, I'll counter that because I did also like the trees and everything too, but I'm looking at the new downtown and it's looking to me a little more festive and stuff, and it might be a little bit more open to, it seems more open, and maybe it'll be more inviting that way, because to me the trees and everything, yes, it made it more cozy and comfortable and stuff like that, but if we're trying to bring life down there, maybe a little bit more openness might be good too. So I'm looking at the new lights as a good thing.
Well, it's a tricky trade-off of like, if we're starting fresh, you know, yeah, we put in wide sidewalks and we put in a median and the angled parking and all of that, but the fact that we're working with these constraints of like, we have the businesses, I really like being able to, or planning to have the expanded sidewalk and the expanded outdoor area. Everybody realized this is really great. We can all sit outside and eat, and the angled parking. And so you know, there's the trade-off of like, well, which of the, we can't have all of them, unfortunately. And so which of the ones are we gonna pick?
We can't have trees and angled parking and 2 lanes and medians and circles and stuff. Okay. Yeah.
Don't have enough real estate for all that.
I think I do recall some conversations in the office from the days when they originally did the visioning effort 3-4 years ago for Grand Avenue. And from my understanding, it was that visioning effort that said that they should remove the medians. And it was tied partly to that group, but it was also tied to fire access, because they had, you've got the diagonal parking, then you've got a relatively narrow lane, and if you had a barrier curb like you do here, sometimes that doesn't give you as much room as fire needs to get through. So by taking out the median, then that gave them the additional width that they needed in order to protect the downtown area. So as we kind of discussed, it's all kind of a trade-off. One of the unfortunate things I don't think anybody was happy about was that we had some trees that died, particularly on the section between Broadway. And honestly, you can look at that right here and see that a lot of them are dead. So they had to take all those out, and then they've had to replant them. As you know, so you have, you know, the loss of those outside trees plus the loss of the median, and it does make it look more open than it used to look. So I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be quite a beautiful area. But in particular, when you see new landscaping, it looks a little sparse at first.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up about the trees. I didn't want to bring that up since that was a little bit of a side note, but I appreciate you bringing that up because that is on my mind sometimes when I go through there and I see that a lot of those trees.
If there was anybody that wanted to see those taken out, so, but there wasn't much choice.
And then I assume since that median couldn't support fire access, and maybe that was one of the reasons why it was taken out. I mean, fire is going to approve, to me, I don't really feel there's enough real estate to justify traffic circles, but I'm not an engineer, so there must be enough real estate to just, you know, for a traffic circle to fit at Broadway and Grand and the other 2 locations. But fire does have to give their approval that they can get the rigs around those roundabouts, I assume.
Yes, and they have. That was vetted through them quite some time ago. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, then if we're done with our comments and questions, and we'll go ahead and motion for adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
A motion.
And a second? Second. All right, we have a motion and a second, and let's go ahead and vote on that. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your attendance today at our Traffic Safety Commission meeting.